Hello, here we are, finally. I have been saying I wanted to be here over on YouTube for so long, and we are finally doing it. We are going to spend some time together. We are going to do some chatting, some yapping. Anyone that knows me knows that I can yap for England. I thought, where better place to do it than bring it over to YouTube. Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I am the founder and creator of Becca's Day, the community and the platform where we talk and work on all things self-development, on all things becoming the best version of yourself, building a full and beautiful life for yourself, really starting to believe that you are the prize, healing and moving on from heartbreak, and also becoming the most secure and confident version of yourself, healing your anxious attachment, going from anxious to secure. That is one of the things that we talk about the most. If that sounds like it's up your street, then stick around because we're going to do some yapping. I was thinking, what do I want to talk about in my first YouTube video? I'm just kind of hoping that stuff is going to naturally come to me, because it usually does. I always get anxious when I am due to go on a podcast or something like that, because I'm like, what if I don't know what to talk about? And then whoever the host of the platform is always ends up saying to me, I've never had such a long episode, and it ends up being like 45 minutes to an hour, because once I get talking about something and I'm very passionate in what I talk about, there isn't a lot that anyone can do to stop me. Obviously, as always, I just want to preface this by saying I am not a doctor, I am not a therapist, I am not a licensed clinician, and so all of the advice and the stuff that I talk on is based on my own healing journey, my own experiences. None of it is medical advice, and if you feel like you are in a place where you are really struggling, I strongly recommend that you reach out for professional medical help and advice. I got therapy a few years ago, and it was probably one of the best things that I ever did for myself, the best investment in myself and the future. If you feel like that is something that you need, please reach out to the resources available to you. Without further ado, let's get chatting. I thought today would be quite interesting to talk on the 3 most common questions, or variants of which, that I get asked on my videos. So I post a lot of different content. I love chit-chatting over on Instagram and TikTok. Sometimes it feels like it's not long enough, which is why we are here. But I get asked the same 3 questions on a lot of my content in slightly different variations. And so I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about those a little bit. But the first one I'm going to chit-chat about is I post a lot about space in a relationship being a good thing, and a delayed response or someone taking a little bit longer to reply to you isn't always a bad thing. It genuinely isn't. Me and my boyfriend can go hours and hours and hours without communicating, and that's totally fine, because he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, and then we come back together and we catch up on our day, and it's really exciting and it's really nice. And I genuinely believe without that healthy space in a relationship, there is no room for you to miss each other. There's no room for you to come back together. How can someone miss you when you're together 24/7? Obviously, yes, we all like to say, and I would say, I want to be with my boyfriend all the time, I want to be with him 24/7. And while obviously in the belief that is true, the actual practice of creating a healthy, secure relationship allows for that space. It allows for 2 people to live really full lives separately from each other, and so that a relationship is a really lovely addition, and it's not something that is essential for you to be able to have a full life. Because as soon as you start centering a relationship, that's when things get a little bit ropey, because your whole life, your whole personality, your whole identity revolving around another person is risky, because if that person is ever not in your life for any reason, you feel like you lose every piece of who you are. And I've been there, I've done it. For a really long time, my anxious attachment left me attached to people in a really unhealthy way. I wouldn't make any plans, I wouldn't do anything that didn't involve my significant other, and it's really unhealthy. Like, if I went a few hours without texting him, it would send me into a spiral. We'd be half an hour into our days apart from each other, like at work, and I'd be checking my phone anxiously every 20 seconds, wondering why he hadn't texted me, and that is not healthy. And so I talk about this a lot, and how usually if you are dating a secure person especially, you will be triggered because their energy will be calm. They won't need to tell you 100 times a day that they love you. They won't need to text you 24/7 because they're calm and confident and secure in the relationship. And one of the most common comments that I get on this type of content is people saying, but what if they don't reply for like 2 days? I've not heard from them in a week, or it's been a day and a half and they've left me on red, or they've not replied. And there's definitely a line here between encouraging healthy space and a bit of a break in communication when two people are busy or one person's busy. Let them go and be busy without having to text you all the time. But there is definitely a line between that and then just not hearing from someone that is supposedly meant to care about you. I don't think there has ever been a period of time where I haven't heard from my boyfriend in more than, say, 6 hours, when he was maybe out playing a round or a couple of rounds of golf, because he'll check in with me when he's finished playing, or give me a quick call, or let me know what he's doing. Now, don't get me wrong, the texts over the course of the day that we're spending apart might be sporadic, but he will check in, or he'll let me know he's going to be busy, and he'll call me or text me, etc., whenever he can. If you don't hear from someone for 24 hours or 48 hours, I say with my chest, someone will show you who they are and you have to listen. If you are a priority to someone, if you are important to someone, they will make it known. I believe that with my whole heart, because I have never not wanted to reply to someone I care about for a day and a half or 2 days. And I'm talking usually here about romantic relationships. Like, sometimes I know that people take a bit longer to reply to friends if they're really busy and it's not urgent. I understand life happens. But in a romantic capacity, someone that cares about you or loves you generally isn't going to leave you on red for 2 days. Or they're not going to leave you unread for 2 days and not reply, not check in on how you are, not let you know how they are. I think that there is a certain point where you have to realize what you deserve, and someone being consistent in their communication is a bare minimum. Constant communication is not what we are looking for here. We do not want someone who is constantly in contact with us, because remember, space is healthy, but we want someone who is consistent, who wakes up and says, I'm going to be really busy today, I love you a lot, I'll speak to you when I can. And then maybe you don't hear from them for a few hours, and that's fine, but then they check in later when they can. Someone that just leaves you with no contact for multiple days on end is showing you what priority you are in their life. And I think that it's really important that you listen to that. When I get the comment on my page of, oh, they haven't replied in a week, I'm like, a week? A week? Like, that is how can you build a healthy connection and relationship with someone who isn't replying to you for a week? Someone does not care about you if they are leaving you without a response for multiple days on end. Of course, there are exceptions. People can have big dramatic life events and they can't contact you, and something terrible might happen. There are always situations where there are potentially small exceptions to this rule, but small being the key. This is not a large percentage of people who are gonna not be able to reply for a week. There is no excuse for someone taking a week to reply to you, ever. Okay, the second really common comment that is a tongue twister that I get on my content, oh my goodness, that is a lot of alliteration, is, why isn't it someone else's job to reassure me? I'm not asking for too much and it's not hard. I get this a lot. People are like, I don't ask for a lot, it's just a few words, it's just a quick text, I just need extra reassurance, I'm not asking for a lot. This is where I'm going to have to disagree with you. My viewpoint on this is, yes, a bit of extra reassurance and a bit of extra validation every now and then is totally normal and totally okay. We're all human. It's mainly ties in line with my cycle. I have moments where I will cry for no reason, I'll need a little bit of extra love. These things happen, we're human. But what is not okay and not normal, and a lot of pressure on a partner, when you need reassurance multiple times a day. You need validation multiple times a day. You know, you spent half an hour apart from your partner and for no reason you're asking them, do you still love me? Are we okay? Is everything okay? Are you okay with me? Because what happens is when someone is having to be your emotional rock all the time, they get drained. Even the most secure person, even the most calm, patient, loving person in the world will eventually get drained having to do that all the time. They are having to put so much energy into you and the relationship when nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. They love you. They told you before they left for work. So why are you messaging them 2 hours later asking if they still love you? Of course they still love you. Nothing has changed. And even the healthiest partners and the healthiest relationships will eventually feel the pressure of having to be constantly reassured. So although, yes, a little bit every now and then, totally fine, normal, human, we all have needs. It doesn't matter how much they reassure you or they attempt to validate you, it will actually never be enough. It might soothe you in that moment, it might soothe you for 20 minutes or half an hour or an hour, but because you are not doing the work to heal the core wound, where that need is coming from, it's just going to repeat itself in a cycle over and over and over again, because really them giving you that little bit of reassurance is only just scratching at the itch a little bit. It's not actually healing the wound. And until you really sit down and do the work to heal those core wounds that you have, likely a fear of abandonment, a fear that love is going to leave, a fear that you are hard to love, they are all the core wounds that I had, that I really had to work on and heal. Until you sit down and do the work to heal those, no amount of reassurance or validation from a partner is going to be enough to give you what you feel like you need. You'll get temporary dopamine, you'll get temporary relief, and then the need will start all over again. And like I said, it just gets draining on a partner. Trust me when I say I come with receipts. I've been that person who is an absolute emotional drain in a relationship. And looking back now, I always try to treat myself with kindness and with grace and with patience. But like, sometimes it can feel really embarrassing. I look back at my past behaviors and I'm like, God, why did I do that? Did I have no self-respect? Did I have no self-love? But you've got to be kind to yourself. I had wounds that I didn't realize I had. I had wounds that I needed to spend some time really healing. And over the last sort of 5 years, I've done a lot of that heavy work, which a lot of people don't often do, because unfortunately people think this is just the way that I am. It's just the way I am. I've always been this way. And so therefore, why would I need to change anything? And this is what keeps us stuck in these anxious cycles and these anxious loops, and with our anxious attachment running the show. Because when you just think, well, it's just the way that I am, you are taking zero accountability for your toxic behavior. And in the moment, you might not necessarily think it's toxic. It might take a relationship ending or someone having to have a really frank conversation with you that what you are asking for and your needs is too much and it's really heavy. For me, it took a relationship ending really for me to do quite a lot of self-reflection, and in hindsight see that although I wasn't the entire reason that the relationship ended by any means, I definitely contributed. My needs were a lot and I projected them heavily onto someone else, and I imagine that just got really heavy and really burdensome to the point where the relationship didn't work out. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that everything happens for a reason. If someone is not meant for you, you will not be able to hold on to them no matter how hard you try. And I am now infinitely grateful that my past relationship didn't work out, because they were not my person, and that is absolutely fine. But it allowed me to learn so much about myself and do so much inner healing work that going into my next relationship, the one that I am in now, I have never been so proud of the woman that I am and the way that I bring myself into my relationship, the way that I carry myself, how emotionally evolved I am, how emotionally mature I am, how I know that I can communicate clearly and effectively, how I know that I am aware of my needs and I know a suitable time to ask for my partner to meet them. And I also know a time when I need to be like, okay, this is something I need to internalize, I need to work on, I need to journal through. This one's a me problem. I need to sit in the discomfort and I need to work through it. And it allows me to have an incredibly healthy relationship now in a way that I never have before in the past. But it takes that accountability and self-awareness within yourself, which so many people don't have, because let's be honest, ignorance is bliss, and so many people sleepwalk through life, which probably is great. It's probably a really, I don't know, I wouldn't even say it's comfortable, because before, when I didn't know that I was anxiously attached and I didn't know about my core wounds, I was living every day in what felt like a state of anxiety. I would wake up and I'd feel immediately sick with anxiety even though nothing was wrong. And living like that was awful and was no way to live. But it was doing the work to heal was also incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly hard, but ultimately so worth it, because not only am I would now identify as secure and confident within myself. Because I'm secure and confident, we all know that like attracts like, it's the law of attraction. I was able to attract a secure, confident person, and so together we have a secure, confident, happy, healthy relationship. Now don't get me wrong, every relationship is going to have its trials, its tribulations, its tests. No relationship is meant to be easy. There's always going to potentially be areas of conflict and places where you have to compromise. I am not saying that my relationship is absolutely perfect and we never argue, and because that's part of being human and two human beings trying to build and navigate a life together. That's all really normal. But what isn't normal is needing another person to be everything to you, to meet all of your needs, because no one person can be everything to you and you can't be everything to someone else. And so when you really self-reflect and start doing the work on yourself, you realize that you can't project these needs onto someone else. And although it feels like you're not asking for a lot in the moment, long term, when you're asking someone to validate you and reassure you all the time, you are asking for a lot. Okay, and then the third and final question that I get all the time on my videos is, how do I know if it's my anxiety or if there's a genuine reason for me feeling on edge? Because I say a lot, your anxiety's lying to you, and I say, look at the evidence. In answer to this question, anxiety will be urgent and it will be loud and it will want you to act immediately to get some sort of resolve or to calm you immediately. It will be panicky and loud and urgent. Whereas when something is your intuition, it will just kind of be calm and it'll be soft and it'll be sort of at the back of your mind talking to you, and it will be something you've noticed over maybe a prolonged period. So if your partner's pattern of behaviour is negative or toxic, that is something that your intuition will probably be picking up, and you will be feeling anxious, but you'll be able to see, this is a pattern of behavior. I've communicated my needs effectively. I know that I am not asking for too much. I am not projecting, and still something isn't right here. And it is a case of really looking at someone's treatment of you and the evidence with that. So if you feel super anxious because, say, you've had a delayed reply, did they leave the house this morning and say they loved you and they were looking forward to seeing you later and they'd message you when they can? Okay, yes, they did. So the fact you've not heard from them for a few hours and you feel anxious is probably a you problem, because they have communicated effectively. They've told you they're going to be busy. However, if this person says, I'll text you, and you don't hear from them for 2 days, that is likely not a you problem, as we said earlier on. So it's looking at the evidence of how someone is treating you compared to your reactions, your behaviours and your needs. It's putting these things into perspective and looking at the way that someone is treating you, because I have found a lot of the time as well, when people start doing the work to heal, it can be kind of easy to almost gaslight yourself into you being the problem rather than the fact that you're potentially being mistreated by someone else. So I think taking a step back from the situation, looking at whether what you are asking for is fair, is reasonable, you've communicated in a calm way, and if someone still isn't meeting you at your needs, then that's when maybe you need to reflect upon the health and the status of the relationship. Because if you are just asking for basic human things that people need in a relationship, you're not asking for too much. You are not. It's not ever about being too much. It's about learning how to communicate your needs in a calm way and communicating them from a place of calm and security. So a lot of the time, if you have an anxious peak and you want to speak to someone about something, I would honestly say wait until that peak has calmed down, unless it's dire and it needs addressing in the moment. Wait until that has calmed, because 99% of the time, in my experience, addressing something from a place of calm, you not only communicate clearer and more effectively, but people are so much more receptive to that, because you just come across as calmer, you come across as more well thought and put together. Because I know from my experience that if I start trying to have conversations like in the heat of a moment, I won't get across the points I want to anyway. I'll babble, I will forget what I even wanted to say. But if I allow myself a little bit of time to reflect on it, I can not only think, is this something I actually want to confront? I usually have a 24-hour rule personally, that if something is still upsetting me 24 hours later, I will address it, whether that's in my relationship, whether that's work, like whatever the situation is. If it's still upsetting me a day later, I'll confront it. But most of the time, things can calm. I can be very reactive in the moment. I'm very passionate and I can have extreme reactions to things, which in hindsight may have not necessarily been over the top, but I end up being like, oh, I'm glad I didn't say anything in the moment, because upon reflection, I don't think it needed to be addressed, or I think it was maybe just a me problem and something I needed to work through. So I think there's a lot to be said for having conversations and communicating from a calm place rather than a place where you're like overthinking and spiraling, because you just come across a heck of a lot better. And I know I say things in a much better way when I'm calm. But they're my three main questions. I want to make these like YouTube videos with you really interactive. I want you to give me your questions, give me your topics that you want me to talk about. Head over to my Instagram and my TikTok. My DMs are open, so slide into my DMs or post it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I just want these to be interactive. I want it to be like a safe space for us all to yap and chat together. I'm just so glad that you have been here for my first YouTube video. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to talk for long enough, and I have yapped for the better part of 25 minutes. So we've done okay. I am so grateful that you are here. If you've made it to the end, I hope you've learned something and taken something away from today's video, and I'm so excited for the next one. Speak soon.